goldfish isn't big enough for us now. Go back to the goldfish and ask him for a castle." So off ran the fisherman. He called the fish and told him what his wife had wanted. "Go home then," said the goldfish. "She's already in the castle." When the fisherman got home, he found his wife in a grand castle with servants to sit on her. But when the wife woke up the next morning, she said to her husband, "Go and tell that goldfish that I want to be queen of all the land." She made him go down to the sea and call the fish once again. "She wants to be the queen," said the fisherman. "Go home then," said the goldfish. "She's already the queen." When the fisherman got home, he found his wife in a palace, seated on a golden throne. "I hope that you are satisfied now," said the fisherman. But his wife said, "Tell the goldfish that I want to be the god." So the fisherman had to go back to the sea and caught the fish once again. "What does she want now?" asked the goldfish. "She wants to be the god," replied the fisherman. "Then go home to your hut," said the goldfish, as he disappeared under the waves. And there in the hut, the fisherman and his wife have lived to this every day. The Fox and the Crane. A fox invited the crane to dinner and provided nothing for his entertainment but some soup, which was poured out into a broad flat stone dish. Being the long bill of the crane, he wasn't able to eat, which afforded the fox much amusement. The crane, in his turn, asked the fox to sup with him and set before her a flagon with a long narrow mouth, so that he could easily insert his neck and enjoy its contents at his leisure. The fox, unable even to taste it, met with a fitting requital after the fashion of her own hospitality. The Fox and the Crow. One day, a crow is very lucky. She finds a piece of meat and flies up into the tree with it. She wants to have it herself. Just then, a fox passes by. He sees the crow and the meat is in her mouth. The fox wants to get the meat very much, so he thinks out a good idea. He smiles and comes close under the tree. "Dear Mrs., you would be selected the queen of birds." The crow is very happy to hear that. "All agreed with you, but the magpie," continues the fox. "Big mouth, magpie," cries the crow. The meat just drops from her bill, and then the fox takes the meat away. The hen laid golden eggs. The god gave a couple a hen that laid golden eggs. But the couple was too impatient to wait for wealth to come in driblets, and thought that the bird's inside must be solid gold. He made haste to cure it. Not only were they disappointed, but got no more golden eggs, for they found nothing in the hen but ordinary flesh and blood. The Kid and the Wolf. A kid was pursued by a wolf. Seeing he could not escape, he said to the wolf, "I know that I must be your supper, but before I die, I would ask of you one favor. You will play me a tune to which I may dance." The wolf complied, and while he was piping and the kid was dancing, some horns, hearing the sound, ran up. The wolf had to run away and said, "It is just what I deserve, for I, who am only a butcher, should not have turned piper to please you." The Lion and the Elephant. In forest, the lion liked the elephant very much. Many animals argued about the thing, she grew up, she said to her parents, "I want to look for the greatest sir to be my husband." The mouse mom thought the sun was the greatest, but the sun said the cloud could cover it. So the cloud was the greatest. The mouse dad asked Mr. Cloud, but Mr. Cloud said Mr. Wall was greater than him. Then the mouse mom went to ask Mr. Wall, "Are you the greatest man in the world?" Mr. Wall shook his head. Without finishing his words, he suddenly shouted, "No!" Oh, it was a mouse youth who was biting Mr. Wall's feet. The mouse mom understood. Mr. Wall is afraid of Mr. Mouse. So Mr. Mouse is the greatest. At last, the mouse girl married Mr. Mouse. The Old Lion and the Fox. An old lion who was too weak to hunt or fight for his food decided that he must get it by his wits. He lay down in a cave, pretending to be ill, and whenever any animals came to visit him, he seized them and ate them. A fox who had seen through the trick came and stood at a distance from the cave. The lion asked why he did not come in. "I would have come in," said the fox, "but I saw lots of tracks going in and none coming out."
The parrot. Rose has got a parrot.
Say, pretty Polly.
Say, pretty Polly.
No, say, pretty Polly. And don't say pretty Polly.
No, say, pretty Polly. And don't say pretty Polly.
No, no! You are a stupid parrot.
You are a stupid girl. The Wolf and the Shepherd. A wolf began to follow a flock of sheep, but did them no harm. The shepherd thought it was more like a protector than a designing foe, and having occasion to go to the city, he left the flock with it in attendance. The wolf saw its chance, and falling on the sheep, tore most of them to pieces. When the shepherd returned and saw his flock destroyed, he said, "I have got what I deserved for entrusting sheep to a wolf." The wolves and the sheep. "There isn't always trouble between us," said the wolves to the sheep. "Those evil-disposed dogs have much to answer for. If you would only dismiss them from your heels, there might soon be treaties of peace and reconciliation between us." The sheep, poor silly creatures, were easily beguiled and dismissed the dogs, whereupon the wolves destroyed their unguarded flock at their own pleasure.
The lazy grasshopper had spent the entire summer singing instead of gathering and storing food for the winter. Thus, when winter set in, the grasshopper had nothing to eat and was suffering from hunger. He knew of a colony of ants that lived nearby. He went to them and asked, "Dear ant, please could you supply me with food for the winter?" "Grasshopper, we ants have worked hard all summer to gather food so that we could enjoy the same in the winter. What were you doing all summer?" asked the ants.
The summer is beautiful, the sky is blue, the grass is green, and the sun is shining brightly. So I sang every day and night,
answered the grasshopper. "Oh, so you sang, did you? Now you can dance too, without food." The grasshopper realized it does not pay to be lazy. You have to work hard and provide for the future. One day, two friends, Sam and Peter, were traveling through a forest. While walking, they came upon an axe lying on the ground. "Look here," said Sam.
going to share the danger of getting beaten by the angry man behind us.
Sam realized his mistake and decided from that day on that he would always share with his friend Peter. They both apologized and returned the axe to its owner.
Once upon a time, there raged a fierce battle between the birds and the beasts. At first, the bat fought on the side of the birds, but later on, when he saw the tide had changed and the birds were losing, he changed sides. He went to the beasts and fought against the birds. As the battle continued, the king of the birds, the eagle, took it upon himself to plan the attack on the beasts. His admirable conduct and courage once again helped the birds to have the upper hand. The bat was now in a dilemma. He had betrayed his bird friends and changed loyalties to be with the beasts. Now that the beasts were losing, he decided to flee the scene. He was afraid that his life might be in danger if he fell into the hands of his enemies. Not knowing where to go, he hid in the forest.